This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
To rock and roll. Ira, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. It's going to be a long, long night. I expect to be at the arena maybe until 2 a.m, 2 rounds of the draft. Maybe Pat Riley talks. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe the Heat deal. Maybe they don't. Maybe they set up free agency. It's sort of the real starting line of the offseason and the whole process. So we'll know a little more after today, and we'll know a little more incrementally now, day by day.
So the Bradley Beal thing, he's opting out. And so I was talking about this and reading the article. So he can max salary 5 years, 248. But if he goes somewhere else like Miami, it's 5 years, 235. So it's a $13 million difference, which is a lot of money for you and me. But in his case, it's not really that much money. And number two, when I look at it, I say, well, if we're a no-tax state and they're not, how much does that cut into that $13 million over the life of the contract? And I keep thinking to myself, do you really want to stay in Loserville? Because the money overall really doesn't make that much of a difference anymore when we look at the life of the contract, no tax state. So talk to me about this. Is this just a guy that is content with Washington? Is that what it is?
Big O, if he wasn't content with Washington, he would not opt out, because that would present the trade possibilities to get somewhere. You have to understand, there's almost no salary cap space around the league right now. 5 teams have cap space. The Heat's not one of them. So if Bradley Beal goes into free agent and gets a contract free agency and gets a contract starting around, let's say 40 million, 42 million. If the Heat want to do a sign and trade, they then have to come up with that kind of money to match. So then all of a sudden, Bradley Beal puts the Wizards having to be a partner in this whole thing. Do they want to take on Kyle Lowry? Do they want to take on Duncan Robinson? Do they want to take on someone else's bad money? So you have that as part of the equation also, versus now if he's traded before July 1 at his lower salary figure, it makes it a little easier. And it also means Washington doesn't have to take on as much flotsam and jetsam there at the end of the salary cap scale. This from day one, when we've spoken on our Acura Pembroke Pines reports, we've said Bradley Beal does not have the look of a guy saying, get me the hell out of here. You call it Loserville, not my word. I think guys can be content. I think certain guys, Dame Lillard is sort of the same way. He's loyal to his city. You brought me here to the NBA, I will deal with it. Now, Lillard's had far greater success in the playoffs with the Trailblazers, getting to the conference finals, injuries, sort of putting his team a little bit short. It's a little bit different.
He had a nice teammate for several years here in CJ McCollum. So, and they tried. They've tried over there. You know what I'm saying?
And they haven't had the one bad contract. And once the Wizards did the bad John Wall contract, they were screwed. And that turned into the bad Russell Westbrook contract. Then they traded Russell Westbrook and got back what we thought was a nice haul in Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and now they're trying to trade those guys. So it's like what you said before we started talking today is the Wizards are on this sort of hamster wheel of mediocrity. And yes, it seems like Bradley Beal is like, I'm fine on the hamster wheel. I'm going to get a good salary, don't have to move my family, I have a large family now, and I'm content being the face of a franchise, even if it's the face of a bad franchise.
All right, the Kyrie situation, it seems like there's all kinds of layers to all of this.
Sure.
But I don't know what to believe. Is Durant really a guy that still is hanging on to Kyrie Irving here? Does he really want him around, or does he think that it's time to move on? Does this franchise, because a lot of people are writing like eventually they'll end up agreeing to a deal when it's all said and done. So what happens here? And if Kyrie leaves, what does Kevin Durant do? Does he stay there, or does he demand a way out of that place too?
First of all, Big O, I can't fathom Kyrie just flat out leaving for nothing in return. Again, no one has the salary cap money. The guy's opting out of about $38 million. This is all a leverage play right here. I think there's part of Kevin Durant that just wants to see at least once. For once, can we get a healthy Kyrie Irving and a healthy number 3, whether it's James Harden or now Ben Simmons, and see what we can do here? Because you know what? Kevin Durant did have success in Oklahoma City. They did go to the 2012 NBA Finals against the Heat. He did have success at Golden State. They did have their championship run there. And so even if he's going to bail on Brooklyn and move on to the next big thing, I think he wants to get something done in Brooklyn, which he has not done to this point. So I think all signs point of Kyrie coming back, but it's what you talk about with Kyrie. There's never going to be any stability. Again, I said this on our Slomin's Home Security Inside the Paint show yesterday. I said it to you on Monday's Acura Pembroke Pines report. I know you're shaking your head already for those just listening, but Kyrie Irving is a great basketball player. Yes. Kyrie Irving might be the best one-on-one scorer in today's NBA. Probably. That alone at least has me looking at him, if I'm any NBA GM, as a possibility. Now, there is more baggage. Matter of fact, I know we don't have time now, but I'm trying to think of my head of another bigger baggage player in the NBA over the last, if I say 2 decades, maybe Dennis Rodman, just because of his state of mind. You never knew where he was.
Right.
But otherwise, you got to be able to deal with a lot of baggage. So to me, from a Heat perspective, it comes down to this. Pat Riley's dealt with a lot. He's dealt with LeBron's people. He's dealt with Anthony Mason. He's dealt with guys who came in here. Zoe was no picnic when he came here from Charlotte and wasn't giving up the ball and was getting in the mug. He dealt with Shaq and all of that, my way or the highway, and having to change coaches. So I still think it's intriguing for all 29 other teams. End of the day, I think this is all just a power play for this reason. The Nets can give him the money. The Nets have a very wealthy owner in Joseph Desai, who comes from China, has all the money back from over there. So the money is there. So basically what Kyrie is doing is, I haven't been reliable, but you guys have a lot of money and I want more of the money. And I think that's how it ultimately plays out.
This whole Kyrie mess is just
It's always going to be a Kyrie mess. It's funny, you say this whole Kyrie's mess. It's the never-ending Kyrie mess. And when you and I were in Summer League in Vegas, you're going to ask me about the latest Kyrie mess. And you're going to ask me in August and September. And when he decides he just is not in the right emotional state after Election Day to play for the next week, we'll deal with that then. It's all part of the Kyrie sort of scene and who he is.
All right, so I wasn't for this move unless you can get if you can't get the whale, which we don't know yet if they can get the whale or not, or if there's a whale available, but you got to leave yourself open to it. But I do like this player, and yesterday Jerami Grant was finally traded. I don't think Portland really gave up much, actually, in that trade for him, to be honest with you. I look at it and it's like, damn.
They gave up cap space. The only thing they gave up was cap space. They gave up a 2025 first rounder protected 1 through 4. They gave them a bunch of second rounders. But here's the deal. Detroit, because they already had some cap space, now have oodles of cap space. And so they can make a move for DeAndre Ayton, and maybe at a number that Phoenix says, even though he's restricted, that's a bit too much. So all of a sudden, if you have DeAndre Ayton and you have Cade Cunningham and you have the number 5 pick in today's draft, you might be building the kind of young core that eventually can get you somewhere versus having to deal with Jerami Grant's free agency next offseason, when now Portland is sort of on the hook. They don't have any other options to wind up paying for him. It would have been a very good name for the Heat. But they didn't want to deal with 4 more years of Duncan Robinson. That's part of it. You and I have been putting Duncan in trades. We've been saying that $17 million is in the sweet spot and makes deals work. But it's not just $17 million, Big O. It's $18 million the year after, and $19 million the year after that, and $20 million the year after that, as opposed to a contract that's either expiring money or just trading someone into cap space.
Right. Yeah. No, it's. But listen, again, I don't mind them not going for this. And maybe, I don't know. Do you think they were going after Jerami Grant at the moment?
I definitely think they were going after Jerami Grant.
Oh, really?
But I don't think they were going at the level of Tyler Hero. That's what I've been asking people. I asked you on our previous Acura Pembroke Pines report. There's certain players I would put Tyler Hero in the mix for. You and I have been playing this game now for years. Now, I'll take people back if you haven't listened to the podcast of all our Acura Pembroke Pines reports. There have been times I asked Big O, would you trade Tyler Hero for Zion Williamson? And you started shaking your head, saying he's too unreliable. Yeah. So you had that. I've asked you about Donovan Mitchell. I think you were a little more receptive there. I've asked you about Bradley Beal. You're a little worried about where the player's head is, but might be willing to go there.
I mean, if he wants to come here, then fine. But if you really want to stay in Washington, then you're not a guy that really wants pressure. You don't
Right,
want
so
to
you
really
have that.
run.
And so, but the Jerami Grant level of player is where he might sit back with Tyler and go, we'll give you 2 first-round picks and Duncan Robinson's contract and this nice young Max Strus that looks so good in our display case and try to make a deal like that. You know what? Detroit said, instead of taking someone else's stuff, we'll just get space and go out and buy our own stuff. So we don't need secondhand. We can just get brand new. So that's the approach they took. That's where you get shut out. But you know what? The Heat are over the cap and close to the tax for a reason, because they're good. So they spent money on good players. Except for Duncan Robinson, there's not a lot of fat on this roster. Don't go there with the joke. I know you're planning to right now.
Lowry. I was going to say, did you see him
know.
trim it? I don't know. It's it's all right. So you couldn't make the move for Jeremy. Still no hope for Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, I think there's very much hope for Donovan Mitchell. I just don't know if
Why?
it's a tonight thing because the Jazz don't have a coach yet. So who's to say the coach doesn't come in from another team where he has his guy from that team and says, look, I know you like Donovan Mitchell, but my guy over there can do this twice as well as him, and he knows the system I'm putting in. Maybe it's Terry Stotts coming over, someone he had in Portland. Maybe it's Frank Vogel coming over, someone he had in Indiana, someone he had with the Lakers. It's so up in the air in Utah. I don't think they're in a position to change the franchise. Here's the thing. Is Utah interviewing coaches that they want to get, so they're willing to do what the coach wants? I don't see that level of candidate. Or is Utah going to build a team and tell a new coach, this is what you got, make it work? And any coach who takes a job like that is not a top-tier coach. A coach who takes a job...
Here's the problem I have with that. You can't be a coach in Utah and think that you're going to get what you want, because you're not going to get what you want, because free agents are going to come to you anyway. So it's going to be a mission for you. You're still going to have to draft. You're still going to have to trade. It's the only way you're going to get better. So I think it's more of a franchise that's run by a GM than a head coach, because that's the guy that can objectively look at the current position of the team and then plan for the future. Whereas you go there as a coach, you're just thinking of the present. The future's not really that important.
You just want the job. You want the salary. You want to be one of 30 NBA head coaches, which is fine. Yeah. I think the one name today, the today name out there, is John Collins. I think Atlanta realized they overachieved 2 years ago when they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were humbled during the regular season in the play-in round. They were humbled losing 4-1 to the Heat in the first round. I like John Collins a lot. I think it could work, John Collins and Bam. But Big O, I could see some people saying, hey, the Heat were too small as it was. Now you're playing 2 power forwards, and one of them is going to be center. Maybe not. But again, you know what, Big O? I'm going to put you on the spot here again, like I always do in this game we play. Would you be willing to package Tyler Hero for John Collins?
Hell yeah.
Would you?
Hell yeah, I'm giving up Tyler Hero for John Collins.
And then what do you do? And then what do you do in your
perimeter rotation? Because I can replace Tyler with some of the guys I already have in Strus and in Caleb and those guys. But John Collins can be the guy that I need if I lose PJ Tucker, or even if I keep PJ Tucker, I don't have to wear out PJ Tucker and I can use John. So yes, John.
To me, in that scenario, it comes down to a different name. I think it comes down to Victor Oladipo. If the Heat feel Victor Oladipo is trending the right way, that he could be their 6th man, that he would be content being in their 6th man, then I think that's the only situation you can flip Tyler for someone who's not a wing and not get a wing in return. If you feel Vic, number 1, is coming back, number 2 can come back at an even higher level, then it could get intriguing. Atlanta in the draft right now are linked to shooting guard options alongside Trae Young. So why not get someone who helped beat you in the first round this year, and someone who's proven, hey, I know he's injured this year, but 2020 can be playoff tough also in Tyler Hero.
All right, you and I have talked about this, and I think you agree with me. This window is very, very small for Pat Riley.
Correct.
He must make this move this offseason for this year coming up. We talked about this, that this past season was the ideal year to try to win. You failed, you couldn't get it done. Next year, you're really pushing it. The year after that, it becomes really unrealistic. So you've got to make a move. Is this the offseason that if Riley can make the right moves, must Mickey Arison be willing to go over the cap and pay the luxury tax? He's been willing to do it in the past for the teams that he's been convinced are title teams. Maybe you're not convinced it's a title team, but it's a team that could challenge and possibly win the title with a move with Donovan Mitchell and those kind of things. Will Mickey pay the tax? Is he willing to pay the tax? If he doesn't pay the tax this year, is that something that he's not doing what he should be doing, in other words?
And I would phrase it this way. They're going to be well over the cap. So they're spending. You're talking the tax, that's a higher level.
Okay.
They will be willing to spend into the tax for the right players and the right components. In other words, Big O, I can give you a path into the tax that just involves bringing back Caleb Martin and Victor Oladipo and one other small piece. And even with that, if Caleb Martin gets the 10-3 mid-level exception and you give Victor Oladipo $15-16 million a year, you quickly can get to the tax. But the thing is that worth going to the tax for? Are Martin and Oladipo worth the tax, or is a mega trade worth? I would say yes. In a mega trade for a Donovan Mitchell, maybe a Bradley Beal, maybe a John Collins, yes, I would go into the tax for that. I'm not so sure if just bringing back my own, if just bringing back Victor Oladipo, Caleb Martin, Dwayne Dedmon, some of your other free agents, if that's worth it. No, I think that's where financial prudence has to come into the equation also. I think you need to spend smart money. Smart money would be on one more, I don't want to say whale, but one large oversized fish. I'd say if you go there, then I would. And I think Mickey is willing to, because, you're spot on for this reason. They signed Kyle Lowry for 3 years. This was his 36-year-old season. Next year's his 37-year-old season. Then it's his 38-year-old season. So they knew the Lowry window would be very compact, no matter what you think about Jimmy Butler at 32, 33, all the way to his 36th birthday. So yeah, if you're not spending now, I'm not sure what you're saving it on, unless you're saying we blew it on Kyle Lowry and we're not going to chase his bad money. That's why you might say it. And they will never publicly come forward and say that.
Yep. And Franklin Rizzo, don't be silly. Trade Bam. Come on, dude. Relax. Bam is fine. They can win with Bam. Bam's not the problem. Okay, so
Bam and Jimmy are safe tonight. Bam and Jimmy are safe in the starter free agency. Yeah. Bam and Jimmy are but no one else. But no one else would I give the full Orlando Alzugaray 100% guarantee. Anyone else, including Kyle Lowry, including Tyler Hero, would be available if you have to match salaries for a better deal. You know, Pat Riley talks about how he's committed to the culture and committed to the team. What the Heat really are committed to right now is doing right by Jimmy Butler and doing right by Bam Adebayo.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. What are you doing there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel? I know you got to be doing a lot of stuff tonight with the draft.
Well, obviously tonight, as soon as it happens, go to sunsentinel.com. We'll tell you about the pick, why they made the pick, why they didn't pick. Already posted at sunsentinel.com, and at your doorstep tomorrow in your Sun Sentinel, all the key dates leading up through free agency, so you can set your calendar and tell your wife when you can't go out to dinner because you have important things to do. Summer league schedule, free agency timing, option timing, all of that stuff. That's online right now. I'll have a notebook later in the day with some other speculation about the Heat. So Big O, this is the time you live for. And all of a sudden, I'm going to have to start popping up with those special weekend shows. It's going to get fun. It's going to get interesting. And it's going to start happening now.
By the way, who will hit more buffets in Vegas, you or Sean?
You know what? I got a feeling I might get the lower rate than Sean. I think they've wised up and now they go by weight. No offense, my good friend Sean there. So we will see. You know what? It's just a matter of, again, I'm on a newspaper salary. I'm not like the Big O show with the expense account. So you probably will be more likely to find me over at Circus than Sean over there at Caesars.
There you go. Sean's at Caesars. Wow. Damn, you're highfalutin. There you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna be eating the filet fish while he's having the cracked crab. Exactly.
There you go. Nice job by you, Sean. All right, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, enjoy the evening, my friend. We will catch up next week.
Updates as needed. Thank you, Big O.
You got it, my friend. Thank you. There you go. Ira Winderman and our Acura of Pembroke Pines. Miami Heat and NBA report.